Okay, so Star Trek: The Motion Picture, or slow motion picture, or motionless picture, whichever you guys choose to call it. Um, that film is one of those films that you either love it or you hate it. Now, me personally, I liked it a lot. Um, I think it was I think it was one of those films that you can sit back and you can cook dinner, watch it, peek up and be like, oh, that's a beautiful scene, and then go back to cooking, and then you don't really have to pay all that much attention because everyone else is watching the screen too. Everyone on the bridge is watching the view screen, so you're kind of in that experience as well. I mean, of course, everybody knows what the story is. V'ger attacking Earth. Enterprise has to stop it. It's the only, ship in the quadrant that can save it, which is weird because Starfleet's supposed to be this organization that has hundreds of ships. But whatever, it's fine. For story purposes, you can't, you got to overlook it. So turn your brain off. But I think it was, I think it was. When they talk about the size of V'ger, that's something I think is overlooked. I forget what exactly the size of it, but I looked it up to see how big that was, and it was like the size of the sun to, I think, Saturn. I think Saturn. Like, that's how big, like, this V'ger was. The diameter of the sun to Saturn. And that's huge, and this thing's just hurtling toward Earth. So when you think about how small, the Enterprise must have been inside this thing, like, that's something where, that's, wow. you know, and the fact that, they had, no knowledge, of anything of what was going on, that was kind of an extraordinary thing. But the fact that they made this thing that super huge, that blew my mind. I was like, oh wow. But they introduced the new Klingons in here, which of course everybody has kind of gotten used to the rigid forehead Klingon look. But I like these ones, the way their hair is a little bit more floofed up on the sides. They have a little bit more bony ridges in the front. It just looks different than, like, say, the Star Trek 3 or Next Generation Klingons. I like these ones a lot better, the way they look. They look a lot more alien-esque, and I like them. I think they really, from a visual point of view, I think they're an attractive alien race. I do. I think they look very good, especially considering in the original series all we got were, just people with makeup, maybe gooped on, and that's about it. People in just different clothing than what we wore, and that was about it. These were actual full-fledged aliens. And I thought they looked really good. I kind of wish we hadn't have or we wouldn't have evolved them further than this, because I felt like this was a really good look for them. But to each their own. I don't think we've seen the Klingon D7 look as good as it did here, because this was beautiful. Of course, I watched the director's cut, so of course the special effects were re-entered in and whatnot. And I couldn't have imagined watching it in theater back in the day. To me, that would have just been an experience. Even though it is slow, and I can't blame it for that, because this is the first time you've seen the Enterprise in its full glory. You want to take the time to look at it, appreciate it, especially on this scale. Not even looking at the money aspect that they threw into this thing, because this thing was a money pit that they just fucking threw at it. And from what I know, they were still rewriting while they were filming it, which is a fucking hassle to do. You don't do that to people, and they did that on this movie. So we're fortunate we even got a film made. So it's one of those things where I don't mind that they took the time to look at the ship. Even though it did go a little longer than most would have liked. I don't mind that. I don't mind the V'ger, looking through it. To me, those type of things, it sets the mood up really well. I could never tell that type of story because I'd be very bored. But this I feel, this was an event. And I enjoyed it such. Even as a kid, I always enjoyed it. Even the kind of pale costumes, I didn't mind it because to me. Seeing the bright colors, it reminded me of like, okay, this is corny 1960s, and now we're moving past that. We're growing up, and then especially knowing that you go to the Monster Maroons, those are definitely grown up. I mean, you could make the argument that we're still wearing pajamas, but my little kid brain didn't register that at the time. I don't really mind the uniforms. Again, I since Starfleet uniforms change all the time, it's kind of like, just wait till next week, they'll change again. It's kind of like the weather. But this movie I really enjoyed just because we did get to see the gang back. We got to meet a couple new people. Even though pre-Troy and pre-Riker were in this, their storyline I could have cared less about. I've never really cared about it because we didn't know any of them, so who really gave a shit? And the fact that they died at the end, it's like, again, who really gives a shit? But it is what it is. They did what they were supposed to do and they served the purpose. But I think overall the story was really good. A very simple story, but beautifully told. And that's really the only way to look at this, is a very simple story, but beautifully told. So, I can't really knock it. It is, I do like it. It's not one of my top faves. I've never said that. But I do like it. If it's on, I might have it in the background, as like I said, background noise, like, as I'm cooking, or, I used to do it when I was drawing, so, it's one of those things where I don't hate it, but I do understand those that do, their argument is just as valid as mine is to support it. So, to each their own, but, those are just my thoughts. But with that in mind, be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.